It is the view of trunews that racism in any form is wrong and deplorable. Racism should not be tolerated. God made one race, the human race. We have different skin colors on the outside, but we're all the same on the inside. Nobody is superior or inferior to others. The political left in America, Europe, and Great Britain are obsessed with the issue of race. They automatically label conservatives as racists and bigots if they disagree with their political views. Likewise, Zionists instantly scream anti-Semitism whenever somebody criticizes the Zionist political agenda in Israel and the United States. By accusing their critics of racism, Zionists can quickly shut down all discussions of their actions, motives, and agendas. For example, there is ample video evidence of Israeli army snipers murdering Palestinian teenage boys. But anybody who denounces the idea of sniper assassins is called an anti-Semitic bigot. The issue, however, is not about race, skin color, or national origin. The issue is using army snipers to shoot boys in the head because they got too close to a fence. Now, Mr. Israel Shahak, a Holocaust survivor who passed away in 2001, wrote a book in 1994 titled Jewish History, Jewish Religion. The book is about Judaism and Zionism. Mr. Shahak, a former professor at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, focused primarily on Jewish racism toward non-Jews. Jews use derogatory terms for non-Jews. In private conversations, they call us goy or goyim. Goy and goyim are racist words commonly spoken by Jews. It is equivalent to a white person using the N-word to identify a black person. In the book Jewish History, Jewish Religion, Professor Shahak delved deeply into how Jewish racial superiority is woven in and through Zionism. He believed that it explains the way Israel interacts with non-Jewish people. The Hebrew University professor cited the Talmud as evidence of Jewish hatred of Christians and non-Jews. He quoted the Talmud saying that Jesus Christ is in hell, boiling in excrement. He said Jewish tradition teaches devout Jews to burn copies of the New Testament Bible and to curse the mothers of dead Christians when they walk past Christian cemeteries. Professor Shahak said that Talmudic Jewish rabbis teach Jews that God's instruction in Leviticus to love thy neighbor only applies to Jewish neighbors. He also said Jews believe Jewish lives are more valuable than the lives of non-Jews. Now, he quoted Maimonides, Ben Shapiro's hero, as teaching that the death penalty does not apply to Jews who murder non-Jews. Rabbi Yoel Sirkis taught that causing the death of a non-Jew is not a sin. Professor Shahak also wrote in his book that rabbis teach Jews that they are not obligated to save the life of a non-Jew who is in danger of dying. Maimonides taught Jews, quote, as for Gentiles with whom we are not at war, their death must not be caused, but it is forbidden to save them if they are at the point of death. If, for example, one of them is seen falling into the sea, he should not be rescued, end of quote. That's Ben Shapiro's hero. I want to remind you that Maimonides, as I just said, is the 12th century rabbi who Ben Shapiro often quotes as the source of his religious beliefs. Professor Shahak described Maimonides as a Gentile hater and a racist. I wonder if Ben Shapiro agrees with Maimonides that the Turks have a nature of brute animals and are not on the level of human beings. The Hebrew University chemistry professor asserted that Jewish racial superiority was the driving force in Israel's brutal treatment of Palestinians. He noted that 92% of Israel's land is restricted to Jews only. He cited the deliberate destruction of hundreds of Palestinian cemeteries so that Jewish buildings could be constructed, including the Hilton Hotel in Tel Aviv. Shockingly, he quoted an Israeli army booklet published by the IDF Central Regional Command that gave Israeli soldiers permission to kill innocent civilians. The IDF booklet says, quote, "In war, when our forces storm the enemy, they are allowed to even enjoin by the halakha to kill even good civilians," that is, civilians who are ostensibly good. Professor Shabhak was a Jew who vehemently opposed Zionism, which proves that not all Jews are Zionists. And that has been my point in all of our discussions here at True News about Zionism. Zionism is a radical, dangerous, racist political movement built around racial superiority of Jews. Many Jews reject Zionism's extremist views. To say that all Jews are Zionists is as wrong as saying that all white people are members of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, can a news program intelligently and calmly discuss Zionist racism without being called anti-Semitic? Well, you already know the answer. A vicious firestorm of lies and slander will be unleashed against me immediately. We will be vilified online by Zionists and their shills. Regardless, we will present some shocking evidence today to show you that the state of Israel is a racist nation and that Zionism is driven by Jewish racial superiority over all other people in the world. Hopefully, Christians will be delivered from their bondage of Christian Zionism. Our panel of Doc Burkhart, Edward Zoll, and Matt Scow are here with me today. This is going to be a very controversial episode of True News. You know, as soon as this thing hits the internet, the Zionist propaganda machine is going to go ballistic to vilify us. But we're going to show evidence. I just quoted Maimonides. I quoted a Hebrew University professor.
Before anyone watching this judges the content, look at the evidence. Don't judge us by our words. Look at the facts that we're presenting.
Well, I had to commend you on that open. That
was a good open.
That was great, because that really succinks everything that we're trying to do here. And it shows what attack comes upon us when we talk about the truth. And I couldn't have said it any better. That was really good. And
well, can you imagine in the 1930s if you spoke out against Nazism and you were branded as anti-Germanic?
Right.
That criticism of Nazism is racism against the German people. Right. And you would be saying, wait a minute, this doesn't mean all Germans are Nazis. This means that the Nazis are evil.
Yes.
And they're headquartered in Germany. That doesn't mean you're slandering all German people.
And that's what they want to do today. That's the political and the environment we live in, is pigeonhole that person. And if you don't agree with them, just make them sound as crazy and nutty as possible. Throw racism, homophobic, Islamism, ism, put it on them, because we're going to vilify them.
That's right. I think Nazism, the more I study it, the more I study Zionism, the more I'm convinced that it is our generation's Nazism. I think it's capable of mass genocide.
But here's the frightening aspect of this, Rick. If you speak out against Zionism or any of its ideology at all, you're automatically equated as being anti-Semitic.
By who?
Our sector of state.
By our own government.
Yes, but who controls them? The Zionists.
Yes.
Who controls you're going to be slandered by the news media, but who owns the news media? The Zionists.
But you can't say that either, can you? Because that's anti-Semitic.
Because they're trying to ban all criticism, not of a race of people, but of a movement, Zionism.
And if you look at the State Department definition of that, I mean, this literally says that. And how close are we getting to push that a little bit further?
That's right.
Where you can't even mention any of this or becomes a felony.
Well, they're talking about criminalizing it, but at some point, non-Zionist Jews are going to have to stand up and oppose Zionism. Just like people say that Muslims who do not support
Radical
Islam, terrorism, that they are obligated to oppose it.
Right.
Then non-Zionist Jews are obligated to oppose Zionism and stop letting the Zionists tell you that everybody who criticizes Zionism wants to put all Jews in a gas chamber.
Right.
Because that's the propaganda that they use.
Yes, and the scary part is it's not Jews that the Tanakh and the Torah, it's the Talmud, and that is taken over. I mean, maybe Judaism is that. It is the Talmud, you know, and that is the real scary part, because for so long we don't look like the public has not looked into it to see what's in it.
The God of Abraham did not create Judaism.
Yes,
That's right.
Judaism.
Abraham was not a Jew.
Judaism's religious book is the Talmud.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's what they teach in all their what do they call their
Oral Torah.
Well, yeah, but they're
The yeshiva.
synagogues or the schools they go to. That's what they teach.
But we have some really shocking information here today, and we're getting it from Jewish newspapers,
Right.
who are, the editors and the writers are shocked at what they are discovering. Thank God for Channel 13 in Israel that broadcast a shocking news report this week in Israel, outing a prominent military academy.
Yes.
Right, this academy, their English name would be the Children of David.
Yes.
Okay? This is not some little tiny, rinky-dink, obscure, private schoolhouse. This is a prominent military academy. This would be equal on par with, in America, West Point, the Citadel, U.S. Air Force Academy. Thousands of Israeli Defense Force officers were educated at this academy.
The ones that we see in the video shooting unarmed Palestinians. That's where they came from.
Yes.
So that's where their mindset is.
It is the elite military training academy in Israel. This is where the rich Jews in Israel send their sons for military training.
Many of which, after even their service in the military, go into politics. I mean, this, we can also say, is an incubator for leadership in Israel.
And they go into Israeli intelligence.
Yes. Taupiyat Unit 8200.
8200.
So, Edward, let's talk about who we're going to. We have some video clips. Where did we get the video clips?
So first, the video clips were taken from Channel 13, but then translated by a freelance journalist named David Sheen. Now, David Sheen is an Israeli. He's, for the most part, looking at this, he is anti-Zionist. A fully available man named Max Blumenthal. We've spoken about him before. But
Max Blumenthal is a Jew who is anti-Zionist.
Exactly. He came up with the hashtag JISL, which, yes, so I don't have to explain that one. But the short is that we were able to confirm the transcript presented by looking at the Israeli articles, David Sheen, and a couple other websites that were covering this. So the individuals we're covering is actually, the first one is Rabbi Eliezer Kashtil.
Hey, before we show this, I should tell YouTubers, I'm giving you a heads up. True News every day is found at trunews.com. That's our website. That's where we belong. Trunews.com. That's what we own, the True News app. I'm not certain you're going to get to see this entire video before YouTube shuts it down.
We need to get a lower third that says maybe be censored by YouTube.
But you will always get it at our website.
Yes.
So I'm just giving you a heads up. This thing could go dark at any minute here by YouTube because they're owned by the Zionists. Okay, Facebook is owned by Zionists. All these big platforms are owned by Zionists. So we are showing this on Zionist-owned, Zionist-controlled media platforms. So I'm totally prepared for them to pull the plug on True News. But when we disappear, know that we are at trunews.com. Just because we go off YouTube doesn't mean that we disappeared from the planet.
We existed before YouTube.
Yes, we've been around a long, long time. This is our 20th year anniversary. All right, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here, God willing, another 20 years. So, all right, go back to what are we going to see?
So the first soundbite we're presenting from that Channel 13 news report is actually from Rabbi Eliezer Cashtiel, who's the head of the Son of David Religious Seminary, the one you just mentioned, that's on par with West Point.
The chief guy, the top rabbi.
And what you're going to hear him talk about, on top of obviously presenting some pretty racist ideologies, specifically talks about Jews being the masters over Goyim, over non-Jews, the Gentiles.
So Goyim is their dirty word. It's like their N-word for any non-Jew.
Yes, that's correct.
Cattle, like cattle. They're referred to us as cattle.
Okay, yeah, that's literally what it means. It's like you're as low as an animal. Okay, let's watch it.
בגלל ביטול העבדות החוקית, אז נוצרו מגרעות עכשיו, כי אין אחריות על הנכס הזה. בעזרת השם זה יחזור. הם ירצו הגויים להיות עבדים שלנו.
זהו הרב אליעזר קשתיאל, ראש ישיבת בני דוד בעלי.
הכי טוב להיות עבד של יהודים. הם שמחים להיות עבדים, רוצים להיות עבדים.
הישיבה הזו מיועדת לבוגרי המכינה הקדם צבאית, המוכרת והיוקרתית בציונות הדתית. רבים מהם מגיעים אליה לאחר שהם מסיימים שירות צבאי.
במקום שהוא יהיה סתם מסתובב ברחובות ועושה שטויות ואלימות ומזיק אחד לשני. עכשיו הוא עבד, החיים שלו מתחילים להתנהל.
לפי הרב קשתיאל, האדונים הם היהודים, העבדים הם הערבים. החלוקה לא מקרית, זה עניין ביולוגי, בעיות גנטיות.
יש מסביבנו עמים כאלה, בעיות גנטיות. תשאל ערבי פשוט, איפה אתה רוצה להיות? הוא רוצה להיות תחת הכיבוש. למה? כי הם לא, יש להם בעיה גנטית, הם לא יודעים לנהל מדינה, הם לא יודעים לעשות כלום. תראה איך הם נראים.
והנה התורה כולה, תורת הגזע.
בוודאי שיש גזענות, מה אנחנו לא יודעים שיש גזעים שונים בעולם, מה זה סוד זה, מה זה לא נכון, זה נכון, מה לעשות?
בעוד יומיים עם ישראל יציין את יום השואה, בין היתר את החלוקה של הנאצים לגזעים, עליונים ונחותים, והנה בגרסה העברית.
כן, אנחנו גזענים, אנחנו מאמינים בגזענות. יש גזעים בעולם ויש תכונות גנטיות של עמים, וזה דורש מאיתנו לחשוב איך לעזור להם. יש הבדלים בין גזעים, וזה בדיוק סיבה להשיט עוזרה.
מי שמחה להחליט מי זה מי?
אני רואה שאני מגיע להישגים הרבה יותר מרשימים ממנו.
Is it shocking?
It's very shocking. Can you imagine saying something similar here in the U.S.? If I said that blacks were genetically inferior to whites, they couldn't run in government. In fact, because they're genetically inferior, they should be our slaves. And can you imagine the outcry that we would have here in the U.S.?
And he said they want to be slaves.
Yes, they would sign up for it.
But this is Nazi talk. This is what I would hear
it's Nazism.
In the beginnings of World War II or in the 30s.
That's right.
Ramping it up, tell them over there, we need to control them or get rid of them.
That's what I'm saying. We're watching Zionism gain power in the world, just like Nazism was gaining power in the 30s, and it resulted in a world war because people said, this movement, Nazism, is so dangerous. We have to crush it. We have to stop it.
Sure.
And so we're moving in this direction with Zionism that another 10 years, there are going to be nations that are saying, this thing is a racist movement that seeks to dominate and control all nations and enslave the people. Right there is the head professor of this military academy saying, we are racist. Yes, we're racist.
And we're proud of it.
We're proud of it because other people have genetic defects, and only the Jews are perfect to rule over them. That's really what the man's saying.
He must be a slave master. I mean, literally said that the Goyim should be slaves to the Jews.
When Edward showed me this, I was like, okay, wait, who is this guy? Because there's fringe and everywhere. Is this like a Ku Klux Klan wizard, you know, on there? This is the
top military academy that has trained thousands of Israeli military officers, and it's state funded.
Yes.
Now, Rick, you can show this clip. You can show all the different subtitles that are on there and everything, and have this rabbi, this military academy leader, say all these things that express these views, and yet you're the one that hates the Jews, Rick.
Yes, but he's saying he hates everybody else.
Yes. So why do they get a pass?
Because they own the media.
The reason is because that doesn't get shown.
It's not that hard to explain. They own the media.
Yeah, I mean, if this had been West Point, think about this for a second. Had this been a West Point professor saying something along the lines of this, even if it wasn't about Israel, the Jews, maybe it was about blacks, this would have run wall to wall on every TV outlet in America.
Absolutely.
The thing is, this doesn't get shown. The light is starting to show on this, and it's. Where else will you hear this? There's no other channel I know that, except for shows like ours, that will even dare show this.
There's nobody in America that would show this.
No.
None.
Why?
For fear of the Jews.
That's right.
Okay. That's why.
I'm
For
shocked.
fear of the Jews.
I didn't see it. He told me about it. I'm shocked at what I heard. That is.
Well, we got more.
Oh, yeah.
So we sure do.
Yeah. Is there anything else in that? He said the Goyim will want to be our slaves. Mm-hmm. Being a slave of the Jews is the best. They must be slaves. They want to be slaves. Instead of just wandering the streets, being foolish and violent, harming each other, now his life begins as a slave. The people around us have genetic problems. Ask the average Arab where he wants to be. He wants to be under occupation. Why? Because they have genetic problems. They don't know how to run a country. Look at the state of them. Of course racism exists. Are we aware that there are different races? Is it a secret? Is it untrue? What can you do? It's true. Yes, we are racist. We believe in racism. Correct. There are races. Nations have genetic characteristics. So we must consider how to help them. Racial differences are real and a reason to offer help. Now, this guy represents a significant portion of the coalition that elected Benjamin Netanyahu.
The Union of the Right.
Yes. This is his voter bloc right here.
Right.
This is the way they think in Israel. The people that went out and re-elected Netanyahu and the Likud party. It's a racist movement. That's why they kill Palestinians. That's why they bulldoze their homes. Right. Because they think the Palestinians are animals. They don't deserve to live.
This is being taught by the head rabbi of the military academy. All the rabbis under him are being taught this. All the students are being taught this. And then these students go out into the IDF, into the Mossad, into 8200, into politics, and they repeat this. And they put this policy into effect. They believe this.
Yes, they do. And that's, in my opening, I quoted the IDF booklet that said Israeli soldiers are permitted to kill innocent people. What kind of nation has that in their military books?
Well, we found out through the research there's quite a few IDF pamphlets which have been placed out there, among which some of them are saying that the reasons why Christians go to, remember to the Auschwitz, the camps in Europe, is so they can show Hezbollah and other people how to exterminate Jews. I mean, these are things that are being distributed to the IDF and have been for years.
Now, we didn't plan this because today's Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Right.
But Channel 13 in Israel timed the broadcast of this report to hit the airwaves in Israel the night before the start of Holocaust Remembrance Day. So obviously, there are some Jews at Channel 13 in Israel who were saying, we're disgusted by this, and we're outing this, and we're exposing this, and we don't want to be part of it.
And you could look at it like this, too, that oh, if some other media would put this out, well, they would never do it on that because, like, how disrespectful, or you could think it in that terms too.
Yes. But we're getting this from Israeli television.
And we're going to show it. And
so the next one, and the reason I brought up Holocaust Remembrance Day is because in this next episode, which is video number 16, Rabbi Radler of this Sons of David military academy praised Adolf Hitler.
What?
Yeah, get ready for it. Let's just watch it and then we'll talk about it.
כיצד הם רואים את השואה?
השואה באמת זה לא שהרגו את היהודים, זאת לא השואה. כל התירוצים האלה כמו זה אידיאולוגי או זה שיטתי או כל זה לא שטויות. זה כיוון שזה נבע מתוך אידיאולוגיה, במידה מסוימת זה יותר מוסרי מאשר סתם שאנשים רוצחים. הומניזם, כל התרבות החילונית זה אנחנו מאמינים באדם, זה השואה. השואה באמת זה להיות פלורליסט, כן? להאמין באני מאמין באדם. זה נקרא שואה.
זהו הרב גיורא רדלר, וזו ההגדרה שלו לשואה.
שהקדוש ברוך הוא כבר הרבה שנים צועק שנגמרה הגולה, אבל אנשים לא מקשיבים לו, וזאת המחלה שלהם שאותה צריך לרפא על ידי השואה.
שימו לב לשיעור המדהים הזה, תחת הכותרת היחס לשואה. כך הוא מחנך את תלמידיו על הנאצים ועל היטלר.
ההיגיון של הגרמנים הוא נכון יחסית לעצמם. זאת אומרת שקבוצה מסוימת באוכלוסייה היא זרע הפורענות לכל האנושות, בגללה כל האנושות תלך לאבדון, הם מרעים לאנושות, ולכן צריך להשמיד אותם. האידיאולוגיה הזאת נשמעת לך לא הגיונית? רעה מאוד.
זה לא נשמע מוסרי.
משה רבינו, אכזרי רשע כמו היטלר? לא. למה לא? יש דבר אחד רע בעולם וזה להיות צבוע. משנה לך אם הורגים אותך עכשיו מסכין או כמו שהרגו את הגג או שהורגים אותך בתא גזים, סליחה.
התלמידים נדהמים, מנסים לסתור את הרע, והוא ממשיך בשלו.
בוא נתחיל מהשאלה אם היטלר צודק או לא. 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 הוא האדם הכי צודק שיש. ודאי שהוא צודק כל מילה שהוא אומר. באידיאולוגיה שלו הוא צודק. יש עולם גברי שנלחם, שעניינו כבוד, שעניינו החוות לוחמים. ויש את העולם הנשי, הרכרוכי, המוסרי, לתת הלחי השנייה. ואנחנו חושבים שהיהודים הם אלה שנושאים את המורשת הזאת, מנסים במילים שלנו לקלקל את כל האנושות, ולכן הם האויב האמיתי. עכשיו, הוא צודק ב100%, חוץ משהו בצד הלא נכון.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, Dr. Michael Brown, I'm waiting to see your response to today's edition of True News. Maybe you'll finally come out of Zionism and Talmudism and join us in the Christian faith.
Yeah, did you see at the end which side, the only difference, what side were they on? They were on the wrong side. The ideology.
Yes, and let me tell you what he meant, because I read his full statement of what he was saying about Hitler. I don't know if I can find it here fast enough. Basically what he was saying was that, oh, here it is. And he's saying, speaking of the Nazis, and we, meaning the Nazis, believe that the Jews carry on this heritage, trying, in our words, to spoil the whole of humanity, and that's why they are the real enemy. Now, Hitler is 100% correct. What he's saying here, Doc, is that Hitler had figured out what the Zionists were doing. And in that regard, Hitler was 100% correct. Hitler figured out that the Jews, the Zionists, were trying to spoil the whole of humanity, and that rabbi said, he's correct. He got us, he figured us out. He got our game plan. And in that regard, Hitler was correct. Now that's what this man's saying.
Right. Yes, and he, in his statement, he also pointed out that Hitler killed the wrong people. In his eyes, in fact, the rabbi, he said it would have been better, more correct, more righteous for Hitler to kill the non-Jews, the Gentiles, instead of going after the true master race.
And did you notice the line in there? Because the video transcript is not literal word for word, because Edward gave me the actual translation,
right.
So when he said there's masculinity in war, but then he talked about a feminine mentality. He actually quoted Jesus,
turn the other cheek.
So he's saying that Christians who turn the other cheek are feminine, but Jews who rise up and kill first are masculine.
And he's talking to soldiers.
Yes.
So
he's training the soldiers. You be masculine. You rise up and kill. Don't be like a sissy Christian who turns the other cheek.
What I seem to get from this too, Rick, is that this rabbi was basically justifying everything Hitler did because the effects proved that he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish.
That's part of it.
And he's saying to these soldiers, these potential politicians, these potential agents of influence and various intelligence sources, you can do the same things.
Yeah, and he's saying their mode was successful and correct on how they accomplished this. It was just on the wrong side.
So when I warn that the Zionists have a final solution for the Palestinian people, I'm not exaggerating it. I am convinced that they have a final solution. If they are permitted to carry out their plan, they will kill all the Palestinians.
And they'll think it's righteous. They'll think it's approved. They'll think it's something that they should do.
And America's Christian Zionists will say it's the will of God. Because the Palestinians were living on Israeli land.
Would they really do that, Rick?
Yes. The Christian Zionists in America would justify genocide of the Palestinians because they're not Christian, they're Zionists. I do not believe these Christian Zionists anymore are Christian. They are just Zionists. I'm not even going to give them the benefit of calling them Christian anymore. They're Zionists. They've left the Christian faith if they ever were in it. And some of their leaders are nothing more than Zionist agents, propaganda agents that have infiltrated churches and put on enough Christian cloak themselves with some Christian garments and got down enough Christianese talk to worm their way into churches and television stations and radio stations and publishing houses. But really what they are Zionist propaganda agents.
Do you
Beacons of death.
Do you think you'll see an outcry after this anywhere?
No. Not in America, you won't.
What about Israel when this
No. There's a portion of
Well, this aired in Israel.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Do you think there will be anything that comes of this with that rhetoric?
Because the people of Israel voted to elect the Nazis.
Yes.
The Netanyahu Nazis.
I think something odd is happening right now. It's either that some of these statements, these hidden statements that were happening all along are finally coming out, or the individuals that are proud of this ideology
are
so brazen. They're going to the media. They're allowing their statements. Like, for example, the Notre Dame rabbi. Remember him?
Yes.
His statement, that was during an interview.
They're turning it up.
Published. Yes. We found out about it. It was published in an Israeli paper.
The election, here's the two things. Donald Trump's election, and then I'll say three things, with the Christian Zionism support in America, and then Netanyahu's strong re-election. Those three things together is emboldening these Nazis, these Jewish Nazis, to just come out and say, this is who we are. This is what we believe. This is what we're doing. And they're over the next, if they're not stopped over the next 10 years, German Nazism will pale in significance to Israeli Nazism.
I just realized in that metaphor you've laid out that Palestine is Poland. I mean, the West Bank, Gaza, it's Poland. Syria is another of the countries, it's Belgium, it's Poland.
Why do you say that?
Because the Nazis, everyone underestimated the Nazis before they started actually physically invading other countries. They were like 75 to 80% fully implementing the Nazi ideology in society at that point. But it could have been confronted before then. But once they invaded Poland, that's when the British, the French, even the Americans said, we have to maybe do something about this. It was too late at that point. Yeah, it led to World War II.
They had the Olympics. They held the Olympics there. And there was still no, Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine.
It was Man of the Year.
Man of the Year. It didn't come in like a beast. It came in like a regular political movement.
Yes. I have a magazine, December 1940, Time magazine, and it was their Christmas issue, and the article said 800,000 Christians in Nazi concentration camps.
Wow.
800,000 Christians in Nazi concentration camps, and yet you ask Christians in America, were there any Christians in the concentration camps? Yeah. They say no. There were nearly 1 million in 1940.
Yes.
Right.
I believe that.
Now, I want to ask Edward, you mentioned Poland. This has a personal importance to you. Why?
My grandma was in a concentration camp.
Your grandmother.
My Polish grandmother was put in a concentration camp by the Soviets. All right, this is before the beginning of World War II, before Poland was necessarily annexed. The point is, the Polish were the first real Holocaust group. They were divided between the Germans and the Soviets. My grandmother was taken by the Soviets, put in a concentration camp in Siberia. Okay? This is very personal. My family almost was extinguished. We were almost exterminated. I maybe wouldn't not even be here. It was my grandma escaping that concentration camp.
And the Soviet Communist Party was founded and run by Bolshevik Jews.
That's right.
All right, so that's the fact.
And we talk about this.
And they killed tens of millions of Christians in Russia.
Exactly. And we talk about this ideology of this goyim, right? Well, when they scream, we want Mashiach now, and you keep on saying that that's their Messiah to come back as a political leader, they believe that these goyim will be their slaves when this comes.
Yes, in fact, one of these articles refers to this
Messianic values.
Yes,
I have them in front of me.
yes, that they're teaching. Yes, they're teaching the future soldier, the future military officers, messianic values, which means that they are instilling in these Israeli military officers a view that the Jewish Messiah will be a military conqueror.
Yes.
And that's
why
what
they rejected Jesus.
That's what Judas wanted.
Well, that's why they rejected Jesus.
Yes.
He came as a peace, and you know, and they wanted
a warrior.
They wanted to kill Romans.
Yes.
All right. And so they're looking for a military leader. Ben Shapiro said he's looking for a military Messiah.
Right.
I want to play one more here, but we may get 2 more clips in.
Time to wake up, people.
Yeah, this thing is really scary. Let's do number 24. This one's shocking too. We'll play this one and then we'll make some comment about it.
This is Yosef Shapira, who is Israel's comptroller. I don't know if you have a comptroller here in the Netherlands. It's someone who's, it's an apolitical position, an official whose job it is just to ensure that the government is accountable and does what it says it's going to do, and etc. So he issued a report 2 years ago, and it was a report on Israel's education system. How are Israeli youth being educated? And what he found there, he wrote, I will not gloss over the state of affairs. It shows a grim picture. The state of Israel is doing very little to purge the severe phenomena of racism and hatred among youth. Worse than this, he says, over the years, the Ministry of Education has avoided taking the necessary steps for the prevention of racism. So not only is it not doing anything, it's purposefully not doing anything. Why would it not doing anything? Why would it? Well, in the last decade, Netanyahu has been prime minister the entire time, but Israel has cycled through a series of education ministers, but all of those education ministers have been Orthodox Jews. And that hasn't been accidental. It's been purposeful, very much so. And now we're going to go into a section of the talk that is the most sensitive part, as I alluded to earlier. So what does it mean for Israeli Jews to study in a system, in an education system in which Orthodox Jewry, state-sponsored Orthodox Jewry, is infused into the curriculum? So you get to school, day one, and school gives out these agenda books. Do you have them here in the Netherlands as well, where you can write your schedule for the week, for the month, and what homework assignments you have? So kids get to school, they get this agenda book, and included in the agenda book is this cartoon. Again, I don't expect you to read Hebrew, I'll break it down in English. So this is the cartoon. Brother and a sister talking. Hey, Uzi, let's play war. All right. I'll bring my soldier costume from Purim. Purim is a Jewish holiday. It's like a Bacchanalian festival, and it's like a Hebrew Halloween, kind of kids love to dress up. So he gets his soldier costume. 15 minutes later, at the end of the war. Hey, Jewish soldier. Okay, so you defeated us and took me captive. But if you marry me, if you free me, I'll marry you. You ought to. I'm really pretty. What is this? This is some weird. I mean, marry a Gentile? A daughter of the enemy? Never. No chance. No way. Wait. Actually, I once learned that there is a law called Pretty Woman. What is he talking about here? This is an actual thing. Okay, all medieval religions have their weird wonky rules, but this is an actual thing, and it's not just past tense, it's very much present tense, because this rabbi, Eyal Klein, when he was asked, it's common for Orthodox Jews to pose questions to leading rabbis saying, what should I do under this circumstance? What's the law that I should follow? And so when he was asked, straight up, quote, is it allowed for an IDF soldier to rape girls? I mean, that's what it would seem from this law in the Talmud, this pretty woman law. Is this in fact true? He responds, the Torah permitted the individual to satisfy the evil urge. So yes, Jewish soldiers may rape non-Jewish women during wartime. Now, after he made this statement, he was made chief rabbi of the Israeli army of Jewish soldiers. Worrying isn't even the word. And again, it's not just one, it's not just some, one rabbi in the middle of nowhere that no one knows about. No. Shmuel Eliyahu has been the chief rabbi of the holy city of Tzfat for 30 years. He makes a big fat paycheck from my tax money. And what does he do with it when people come to him for his sagely wisdom? And he's asked, I should also point out, you know how it goes. He's a chief rabbi, the son of a chief rabbi as well. And so when Shmuel Eliyahu is asked, if the regime in Israel was a Jewish theocracy, would a pretty woman be permitted nowadays as well? If we succeed in creating this Torah state where there's no separation between state and synagogue, then would we also still be allowed to rape non-Jewish women in wartime? Where is the respect for women? So women are war booty? That kind of life is worse than dying at war. The person who wrote this is obviously perturbed by what he's read in the texts, and he wants to clarify it. Can this be? I mean, allowing a Jewish soldier to rape a woman, and it's unconscionable in our day and time. And so Shmuel Eliyahu didn't see it that way. He responded saying, now he has got to fight the Jewish soldier, and you shouldn't be preaching morality to him. Don't weaken his spirit. Far from his wife, cravings burn in him. During war, he's liable to think about women and then not fight as well. If you forbid him from a beautiful woman, it's likely to get to the point where the Jewish people will be defeated. If he can't rape willy-nilly, he's not going to fight as well. In that case, the Torah said, if it burns in you, take a pretty woman. Wow. This is an indictment, if anything. And again, he continues, he goes to say, well, I mean, that's all good and theoretical, that is the law, but really, who's putting it into practice? Today, Jewish men have no desire for Arab women.
What do you say?
According to Vice President Mike Pence, we share those values.
According to Mike Pence, we do. According to Mike Pompeo, we do. According to Rick Wiles, we don't. They're not my values. I'm a Christian, and those people are filthy, vile, disgusting,